Hey, today I'm going to show you how to prep and dump your composting toilet the easy way. Hey everybody, it's Robin with Creativity RV, and you may have just seen my last video on why I purchased a composting toilet, my install, and all the things I learned about the install, including the fact that you don't have to install that electric fan. Now, I got a lot of questions about that, so after this video, be sure to check out the next one, which is totally about non-electric composting, how that works and how you can manage it. But today, what I want to tell you guys is how to prep and dump your toilet so it's super easy. Now, in a minute here, I'm going to actually take you outside, and I'm going to show you the prep that I did when I changed my toilet out this time, and show you how to do the composting material. I'm going to show you how I take the entire toilet actually outside, well, the back of the toilet, really easy, and put some plastic bags over it and dump it. Now, with that being said, you probably see a whole bunch of stuff next to me right here. So I'm going to walk you through the stuff that I use. Now, before I get into all that, you might wonder if you can dump your bulk matter outside. You can. Now, in the next video also, I'm going to be giving you all kinds of guidelines from all kinds of environmental places that talk about how to dump manure compost and how to make sure that you have it composted correctly so that you can do that. But in some of the colder months, you're not supposed to dump the compost outside because it's not quite warm enough to incorporate into the soil. So I think the guideline is between October and April, you're actually just supposed to put it into a plastic bag and put it in the trash can. So far that's what I've done, and that's what I'm going to show you. But in the next video, I'll talk about where you can dump it outside. So for this video, I'm going to talk to you about the liquids and the solids. Remember, you separate the two. And the first thing is you have to dump out your liquids every once in a while. Now, look, I am going to tell you a horror story right here, just so it doesn't happen to you. Remember in the composting toilet install video that I had my friend Adam help me build that base? Well, he told me he had thought of putting in a composting toilet, but he had a friend that had a mishap where the urine overflowed. And I thought, how does that happen? How does somebody let the urine overflow? Well, this girl, apparently, because that white jug that you see in the front of your composting toilet has a spout at the top, but that spout goes up into a receptacle bowl. And if you drink a lot of water, like me, then sometimes the urine isn't dark enough that you see it filling up. I didn't notice it, and by the time I did, it had gone above the spout for the jug. So there was nothing I could do but lift up the top and let the urine fall out everywhere and clean it up and take it outside. Luckily, that jug in the opening has a receptacle right there that it all went into, most of it went into. So it wasn't that horrible, but I won't make that mistake again, and I hope you never do because you heard that tip. Now, like I said last time, the urine I actually dump outside unless it's just too much. And that has worked great, no big deal. You also do want to put a little bit of vinegar. So the first thing I want to show you is that I have this big, dollar store jug of vinegar that I keep near the toilet, that when I put in a fresh, empty jug in the front of my composting toilet, I put about that much vinegar in the bottom, because it stops it from staining and it also keeps the smell down. This is also great if you want to really clean it out. And then Nature's Head suggests that you actually spray a vinegar and water mix, so I also have this in the bathroom in a cabinet. Just if you kind of want to wash it down. I find that, usually I just use, every 5th or 6th use, I just pour a little vinegar over it, but I have this just in case. Now, I also did want to tell you that I didn't know this until I had a composting toilet, but there are some like little red flecks that turn up as a residue in urine that will stain the bottom of that white jug for your urine. So whenever I change out the bulk material in the back, I also cleanse out the jug for the urine really well, and what I use for that is I put about 3 of these bleach tablets in here. These are good to have around also because you're actually supposed to put a tiny little bit of bleach in your freshwater tank. You know, so far my hair hasn't turned white, and I put about a half a tab into my freshwater tank about every 3rd use so that the water, you know, doesn't get too gross. I don't drink that water, I buy water. But I put about 3 of these tabs in the urine bucket, fill it up with water, and let it sit while I'm doing everything else, and then I clean it out, and it really helps remove that stain. So this is good to have around. Got it at Walmart. It was cheap. Okay, let's get to how I dump the back portion of the composting toilet. I'm going to take you outside right now and show you how I prep the material, and also show you me dumping the tank. Okay, so the very first thing you want to do when you're going to prep your composting toilet is prepare the composting medium. Now you can get these giant blocks of composting medium, but I searched and searched and found these little tiny blocks that I'll put the link for below that break up a lot easier, so it makes your life a lot easier when you have to prepare the composting material. So all I'm going to do is open up 3 of these packets. I actually only need 2 for the base of my toilet, and I'll tell you later why I'm doing 3. And then inside my bucket here, I have about 3 inches of water. Okay, so now back to the actual composting medium. You can see that those 3 blocks that I put in here really blew up. I actually had to add a little bit more water, but now it's about the consistency that we're looking for of some dry-ish coffee grounds. So I'm going to spend a couple minutes here and get this all broken up, and so it's nice and fine. Okay, so look how much compost that made. This is a regular Home Depot bucket, and those 3 little blocks really made quite a bit. Now I've taken the time to get the consistency right, just like if you were going to be gardening. This is what you want it to look like. You want it to fall apart because then it's going to compost better. I really tried to get out as many blocks as I could. So this is actually the base of the composting toilet. All the stuff that I'm going to dump out is in there. And it's not too heavy. Of course, it gets heavier as it gets fuller. But you can see here, I've just brought the whole thing outside. There are 2 little screws on the side. You just undo them. It lifts right out. And then I bring it outside, because if I do screw up, I don't want the mess in my house. I put 2 bags over the top, and you just dump it over and then take it to the trash can. Okay, everybody, so that's it. Pretty easy. The toilet's over there by the door. It's filled up just to the crank, the way it's supposed to be. I have a little over 1/3 of my leftover composting material out here. And so what I'm going to do is leave this out in the sun for a little bit. I let it dry out really well, and then I store it in a good plastic bag in an outside bin. That way, if my composting material inside starts to get a little bit too wet, I just add a little bit more. So let me tell you a couple of tricks that really worked well for me. First of all, once you crank the handle on the side of the composting toilet and that starts to get a little tough to crank, it's time to empty it, because otherwise when you go to empty it, it kind of sticks in there. You want your composting material to be a nice, loose, aerated material, okay? So once, you know, there's enough composting material and poop composting in there that it starts to get a little bit hard to turn, just dump it. It's no big deal. All you do is you unhook it on the side, you slide off the portion that looks like a toilet seat, and what's left is that square thing that you just saw in the back that I just dumped. And then it goes back in. It really, honestly, it takes like 10 minutes for the whole thing. So not a big deal at all. But I also mentioned in the last video that I did not install the fan. I got a lot of questions about this. So if you're interested in how the composting works and how to make sure you have the right compost material, please do see the next video. But I also wanted to show you this. So I have learned that what works for me, because I have not installed that fan, is that I make an extra block of compost when I'm making my compost, and I get it really broken up really well. See this? And then I let it dry in the sun a little bit, so you know it's not moist at all. And then I seal it in a bag like this. Now, this one block that I made this and about 2 more of these bags, which I have outside. This one I keep in the bathroom. So what I do with it is, if my compost material starts to seem like it's getting just moist, I mean, too moist. You certainly don't want it to be slimy or smelly. If that's the case, I mean, immediately add some dry material. But for me, if it just starts to get a little bit moist, I sprinkle in some more composting material, and then you want to aerate it. Because here's what's necessary for the good composting, which I'm going to go over in more detail in the next video. But composting doesn't require the fan necessarily. Think about an outdoor garden compost system. It doesn't need a fan blowing through it. That accelerates the process of the composting, but it does need air. Well, luckily the composting toilets come with a little crank on the side. So after you do your business, all you do is you crank the poop into the compost. Well, since I didn't install a fan, I make sure that I keep my trap door open a little bit more, run my fantastic fan and, aerate it more often than probably somebody with a fan would, and it's worked great for me. So just to recap it all, you dump your urine outside. Use vinegar in the bottom because that really helps. You can dump your compost, just dump it over in a plastic bag and put it outside in a bin. Or in warmer months when it's really fully composted, you can actually dump it outside, and I'll explain that more in the next video. So you guys, thanks so much for watching the last video and this video and the next video. If you have any more questions, please do put them in the comments below. And if you found this helpful, please do share it with your friends and like and subscribe. And I wish you all happy travels, and please be free.